Thank you very much. Please sit. The Senate President, ably represented by Senator John Owen Eno, the Chairman, Senate Committee on Finance, the Honorable Speaker, House of Representatives, ably represented by the Honorable Babangida Ibrahim, Chairman, House Committee on Appropriation, the Honorable the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Honorable Justice Walter Onogin, the Honorable Minister of Finance, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun, and other members of the Federal Executive Council here present, the Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service and Chairman, African Tax Administration Forum, Mr. Tunde Fowler, the Executive Secretary of the African Tax Administration Forum, Mr. Logan Watt, heads of ministries, departments, and agencies here present, Commissioners General and heads of delegations from African Tax Administration Forum, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. The African Tax Administrators Forum deserve our commendation for this timely conference and its important theme, building strong domestic tax regimes in Africa, strengthening VAT, personal income tax, and companies' income tax. The forum has committed to this cause since August 2008, after the International Conference in 2008 on a somewhat similar theme, taxation, state building, and capacity development in Africa. Senior tax administrators and policy makers from 39 African countries agreed to work towards the, I quote, establishment of the forum as a platform for sharing best practices in taxation matters in the region. It is remarkable that the forum has, through the years, been unwavering in its founding mission and ideals. But it is worth noting also that the tax problems of African states have remained much the same in complexity and character since. The elephant in the room in most discussions on tax in developing countries remains the problem of domestic resource mobilization, addressing the so-called tax gap, the difference between what we collect and what we could collect. The constraints are similar, though in varying degrees in several countries across the continent. They include a large informal sector, including large subsistence agricultural sectors, tax evasion, tax avoidance, tax exemptions, and inequitable and opaque rent-sharing arrangements, especially in the extractive sector. Significantly also, the use of aggressive and often suspicious tax planning and transfer mispricing. By the use of this, multinationals minimize their tax payments, or put more graphically, simply dodge taxes. The Thabo Mbeki report on illicit financial flows discloses shocking details of tax losses to African economies by these practices of multinationals and most often their local collaborators. Paradoxically, the report shows that these practices lead to an estimated revenue loss for developing countries that is 3 times greater than the amount they receive in foreign aid each year. However, the trend of international debate on global tax issues appears to be favorable to African economies, and most African tax administrators, I'm sure, are following these developments very closely. There are 2 main agendas. The first is increasing transparency and information exchange, and the second is base erosion and profit shifting. The former involves establishing automatic information exchange as the new global standard for cooperation in tax matters, and ending the legal secrecy of ownership of companies and trusts, especially those based in tax havens. On base erosion and profit shifting, which has also done significant damage to domestic resource mobilization in Africa, a range of potential actions are planned by OECD countries. These include checking transfer mispricing, country-by-country reporting by transnational companies, international tax law, standards for international tax treaties, limits on tax planning activities, and the tax treatment of the digital economy. Now, these agendas have been endorsed by G8 and G20 countries, thus giving them high-level support and momentum. Although the immediate outcomes will benefit the OECD, EU, and some BRICS countries more, African tax administrators must see the great opportunities in these initiatives and take advantage in developing tax policies and regulations. As an example of taking these sorts of initiatives, and this has been mentioned by both the Honorable Minister and the Chairman of our FRS, we recently in Nigeria launched a voluntary assets and income declaration scheme, VADES for short, backed by an executive order to provide an opportunity for taxpayers who are in default under all relevant statutes to within 90 days voluntarily declare their assets and income and pay taxes on them while being forgiven payment of interest and penalties. Although the scheme targets local tax evasion, we're also interested in the large number of Nigerians who own property abroad and who have not been paying taxes on incomes from these assets. The British government's initiative on transparency in beneficial ownership of properties, we expect, will greatly assist this drive. I think it's important to emphasize that almost across Africa, tax administrators are actively engaged in extensive reforms and battling resource difficulties that hamper these reforms. The issues of collection, of tax, and the appropriate technologies that could bring down these costs, developing relevant skills and management needed to effectively create and run efficient and transparent tax administrations, issues around institutional structure, the wisdom of ensuring autonomy of institutions of tax administration have stretched the creativity and resourcefulness of tax administrators across the continent. Enforcement is, of course, another major issue that practically all tax authorities, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, have to deal with. Again, the surveys show increasing innovation and creativity by administrators in Africa in this regard. Permit me to say, though, that perhaps the equivalent of the invention of electricity for tax administration in Africa is inventing the solution to effectively collecting taxes from our huge informal economies. The easy argument is to suggest that we should wait until economic growth and development brings these informal systems into the formal system. But this is unhelpful. It has kept us on the same spot for decades. It seems to me that we must find a way of fixing this car while the engine is running. I would urge that this conference consider some solutions to this problem, along with the so many huge issues that will occupy your attention in the next few days. Let me again commend the forum for this most relevant knowledge exchange opportunity, and our local hosts, the FIRS, who have proved to be one of the most innovative and forward-looking tax administrations in Africa. On behalf of President Muhammadu Buhari and the government and people of Nigeria, I welcome you all most heartily to this exciting conference, and I hope that you will all have very useful deliberations indeed. And so it is my very special privilege to declare this third conference open.